I like it raw news network. You already know what that means. You know what I'm saying? There's no chaser over here. You feel me? Ain't no chaser on none of my channels. They all raw. But right, we represent hardcore over here. We're asking the question today. Why did supposed friends of Nolan Wales end up with his phone during this situation? There's Nolan not coming back home on the boat that they came on. He came with the friends, but he didn't leave with the friends. And so the question is because, after listening to his mother and father as they were interviewed, I think they were on Good Morning America. They were on a lot of shows. And it's coming up that, that she had to track the phone down, that they had his phone, and they didn't even return the phone. They didn't even return the phone. She tracked the damn phone down. And she's saying that there were deleted messages on the phone. And so, yeah, that's very, very suspicious. Because number one, what you gonna do? The longer you keep it, the more suspicious it's gonna become. Because that right there is evidence. That's probably one of the number one pieces of evidence that they're looking for is that cell phone. Where's his phone at? And so these guys have the phone, and which is very critical because people have had video of Nolan in an argument. Now, from what I'm understanding, Ben Crump said that in the argument he said, "Give me my phone." Or where's my damn phone? Or something. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So right there, that's real critical. That what did they take his phone? Did they strong arm his phone? Did something see that don't sound right. You know what I'm saying? Because if he decided to go on another boat, why didn't he have his phone? To my understanding, they also had his keys. They also had his keys. So I'm thinking to myself, I mean, well, how the hell? If did he drive? If he drove and you got his keys, he got it. People not coming up off their phone today. That's just not gonna happen. You can just kill all, kill all these false, allegations that people would leave a phone with somebody else. That's just not gonna happen. Black Power family. That's just not gonna happen. You got to understand that people use their phone to pay. That's their money. You got your social media. This is your life. This is critical. People can't even function without a phone. So there's no way you're going to make me believe that this young man would leave his phone. And the fact that they had his phone and they did not disclose that. I mean, how long was they going to intend to keep that boy phone? You know, knowing this boy is unalived. He's deceased. So the longer you keep it, the more suspicious it becomes. Because why are you keeping his phone? Why are you keeping his phone? This is critical that we find this out. And the obvious is there. Okay, the obvious is there. A lot of people won't talk about the obvious. I talk about the obvious. The obvious is you're in Mississippi. Now, is also being is rumored that he was there with a white girl, and that this is America, but this is also Mississippi. This is Mississippi, and some things certain people just can't get past. And a lot of times They can't get past, you know, interracial or none of that. They can't get past that, you know. And so when they see that, that's like, you know, a scar for many of them, you know. And so that's something that has not, you know, that's the elephant in the room. I don't think a lot of people, and I've already discussed that, you know, but like I say, you know, General Seti is too raw for YouTube. You know, I be putting hurting on their ass, and you know, they be ready for me to get my shit up off of there. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I have to explain it in a way, but be effective to get that message across. So, did that have anything to do with it? You know, does that did that have anything to? Because we all know, I mean, going down through history, that a lot of niggas then ended up on the rope messing with a white woman. You know, Emmett Till supposedly whistled or whatever he did, winked, whistled. I seen where a nigga was hung just disrespecting, meaning they got into it. You know, they obviously, he said some, you know, derogatory to her ass, and he got hung for that. So, you know, any type of altercation whatsoever, you know, with a white woman or a white man, for the in most part, either or. But you know, the fact that you know he was down in Mississippi with that white girl, and you know, and ain't no telling if you know jealousy arose. You know, they was mad. And some came of that because both of them seem to contradict one another. Peoples is saying that Nolan went with the white girl. Then they already interrogated the white girl, and she said that Nolan went with his friends. So they contradicting one another. So who did he go with? Did he go with his friends or did he go with her? You see, there's a contradiction there. So, you know, sound like both of them in on it to me. Sound like both of them in on it. I know one thing. I don't believe that he would leave his cell phone at all. And you're on the island. You on the island. If it would have some shit happened, I mean anything, you know, you got to be able to contact some help, you know. But they saying that the argument could have been over that phone, and that's why they ended up with his phone. It's some real sinister going on here. There is something very, very, very sinister going on here, and I believe that a lot of people's is getting, you know, they getting itchy. They get down there and start some shit, you know, for the right reasons, for justice, you know, for justice. So, I see Reverend Al Sharpton then got into the mix. Now I don't champion either or. You know, you know, a lot of people say things about Reverend Al Sharpton, but if he could get down there and support Ben Crump and support the family in a racist state like Mississippi, because I mean somebody got to go down there. You know, somebody got to go. Somebody got to stand up and speak for the boy, you know, one way or another. So, you know, Reverend Al Sharpton, they saying Tyler Perry is paying for Nolan Wells' funeral. And so, you know, maybe he's donating some money to the situation, you know, and that's it's all good if it's not for show. You know, if it's for show, but you know, that's some bullshit. You know, don't come up off this boy's demise. You know, don't come up off this boy's demise. But if it's for a good cause, to get down to the bottom of this and get to the truth of the matters, then it's a good thing. You feel what I'm saying? It's a good thing. But we're gonna continue to check in on this family. And make sure y'all subscribe. Don't get off of here, and make sure y'all get over to the other YouTube page because I got another one now. I got another one. It's called Battle Scholar King Seti. King Seti. Battle Scholar King Seti. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it at the bottom of this YouTube page along with the rest of the channels. And make sure you subscribe to all of them. You feel what I'm saying? Patreon support right down there in the video description. Get over there. I got some too raw for YouTube videos over there. They can't take it. Get over there, get that work. Also, General Seti One Stop, where you can get some DVDs, HD, all the classic lectures. This is a must have. I'll see y'all in a minute. Boom. Black Pop.